How do you make your dreams a reality? Has it been very challenging? Why? The Dream to Rise podcast was created to inspire individuals on their journeys of personal and professional growth. Recognizing the power of dreams and aspirations, this podcast aims to share authentic stories, valuable insights, and transformative strategies from a diverse range of guests. It serves as a platform for encouraging listeners to overcome obstacles, embrace their potential, and pursue their passions with purpose and determination, ultimately empowering them to turn their dreams into reality. Let us listen to our guests and learn from their story. Hello, my dear listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a special guest with us here at Dream to Rise Inner Circle. I'm so blessed that we got connected with the Empower Me TV through Mark Smith and Mike Buchanan. She's a 40-year nursing, started entirely by accident. I would love to hear that. After serving in the United States Air Force as a signal intelligence NCO, he entered civilian life, focused on creating a career as a scientific glass blower.
Yeah.
Still, after paying full tuition for the upcoming semester, a corporate-sponsored student bumped him from the program. Scrambling for an alternative, he took the suggestion of his mother and grandmother, both nurses, and entered the nursing program. After starting in long-term care, he eventually found a home in correctional and
Yes.
substance use nursing. And the correlation between correction and substance use is where he began to take a deep interest in manifestation of that mission. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Richard Jones. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Cynthia. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so
Same
much.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to have you here and truly excited about your story. So, Richard, I would just like to ask you, can you tell us something about yourself that brought you to where you are right now?
Okay. Well, Cynthia, you brought it up, and I always think about the beginnings of this because I was going left and I went straight the other direction. And when I got out of the military, I had always worked with a cousin of mine, and he was a glass blower. And I went on shows with him, and I was fascinated with what he did. I helped him, I assisted him. I knew a little bit about what was going on. And the local college had one of the few industrial glass blowing programs at that time in the country. And it was right, 15 minutes from me. And I was like, how could this be? I was excited. So when I got out of the military, I enrolled, I was accepted. Everything was going fine. It was going like I thought it was supposed to go. 2 weeks before the semester started, I got a call followed by a letter. And basically the bottom line is you can reapply for next year, but this year, all the single people that didn't come in with a corporate sponsor, going to have to wait till next year. They've given all this. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a plan B really. So I just kind of looked around and said, oh my goodness gracious, told my mom. And she said to me, because it had one of the few nursing programs in the area too. It licensed practical nursing programs. And that's where she went. And she said, well, you ever consider the nursing program? I looked at her as crazy because my mother was always a nurse. I mean, I know her she's a nurse. My grandmother was a nurse. I tell people I couldn't have told you what a nurse did past taking temperatures. Even though they were nurses, I didn't know what they didn't care. Okay. That was not my view of life. I wasn't thinking about helping people or doing things like that. You know what I mean? To me, a nurse meant, oh, I got to put somebody in the bedpan. I didn't see it at all. She worked on me a little bit. My time was coming down to an end. I only had 2 weeks to make this decision. And it was that or work at the glass factory. Well, now that was real work. And I wasn't about to do that. Okay. I wasn't about to do that. I wanted some type of career. So she introduced me to some people that she knew. And at that time, I had a male female thing nurse. Like, oh, nurses, they're girls. I was way out. So she introduced me to some male nurses that, worked there. And I started to get, okay, well, maybe I could do this. I joined up. Took the first semester, which was all book work. I was always pretty good with that type of thing. I could read, remember anything, so I didn't really have to struggle, got some good grades. The next semester it came time for clinical work. Cynthia, when I saw my first patient, I said, dear God, I have made the mistake of my life. I can't do this. I saw my first patient. I was terrified. I was laying there and I said to the woman, is he alive? She said, stop being silly. Help feed this guy. And I'm like, okay. So that's where I came from. Not, I just dove in. 15 years later, I'm still, I've become a nurse, I got my degree, became a registered nurse at the time. Spent all that time working with the older people and loved it. I loved the older people. I really took to it, And all of a sudden, I get another knock on the door, and they say, we need somebody to come down and work at the correctional facility in the county. Okay? Here I go again. They got nurses at the jail. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. What is that? And I was one of the senior nurses on the staff, RNs at the staff and in the county. So I had seniority. It was sort of mine to turn down. So combine that with a couple other things. And I decided that I'm going to go for this, And I knew in my mind that the nursing home that I worked at was on borrowed time. There was some county things going on. I had an opportunity to do something different. My wife did not want me to do it. She had some relatives who were in the jail community, and she didn't want me to have any didn't want to go around them people. I said, I'm not scared of them. I'm not. So I walked up in there. It was our local county jail. So as soon as I walked in and took a tour, I heard my name being called out from different booths from guys I went to school with. So I felt at home, and I went on and joined the correctional life as nursing. And I changed my whole sphere of working with people and helping people in a different manner. And that whole thing I never anticipated pretty much any of it that was coming. So that's how I got to the doorstep of what I do and see now. It just kind of brought me right there to it. I work with the same type of population. I have physically retired from actually working in nursing, as far as I don't work a nursing job. I spent those last 10 years as the director of nurses at the county jail. The funny part was I started as the director of nurses at the county jail. That was my first day. I was the director, and I knew nothing about what was going on. And if it wasn't for the help of some great LPNs on the staff who trained their boss, I didn't know anything. I was the boss and I needed to be told what to do. So we got through that learning curve, which took a little bit of time, of just understanding the culture and the things around me, what I saw and the people and the things, and then mixing that with, I had never working with law enforcement and corrections, not the same as working in a hospital or a nursing home, not the same, I had different types of bosses with different types of mindsets. My boss didn't know anything about medical, but he was my boss. And I did that a lot. The only boss I really had he was my supervisor, and he did what I told him to do. And I worked with a physician the physician sort of just came in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and said, if you need me to sign something, let me know. Other than that, this is your baby. So I had to learn a lot very quickly about corrections and the people, but I learned some things that I didn't think I was going to learn when I did that. Cynthia, I had some ideas about people, the same ones a lot of us do, the bad kids. Oh, no wonder they act like that. Oh, yeah, well, they ain't got a chance. I know their mom and dad. It was the same thing. I wasn't surprised at what I saw, who I saw there. I knew some of them. I knew why it was there. I learned through putting myself in a certain position. I dealt with the juveniles. And when I say juveniles, I mean 17 out. We didn't have actual juveniles there, but the 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they just come in there, a lot of the first-time offenders. That was pretty much the part that I took over and would deal them out to the staff. But I took it on myself to watch them, see that they were coming in okay, see that they were okay, see what they're transitioning okay, what could we do for them. And I interviewed them over the course of a 10-year period. And with that along came a lot of conversations, a lot of hard conversations with family, friends, and mentors. And a lot of conversations with my practitioners that worked with them. And I just kept storing those up and saying to myself, wait a minute, this thing is not, it's not like I thought it was. And this system that I'm involved in heavily, we could be doing some things differently. And we could be doing some things better. And we're sort of, I think that some of this, we got our eye off the ball. And I just kind of kept working with that and looking at it and thinking and interviewing and talking. And by the time I got done, I was ready to try to change some minds and launch that dynamic in a different direction. And I thought that I could be helpful in that. So that's kind of how I arrived at what I call second starts. And I named it second starts with the number two, I like to add. I named it second starts because I thought that a lot of these young people I saw so many talented young people, I saw so many, they're bright, aware, but come up in a different situation with a different mindset, with different types of support. I saw them all. I saw the ones who didn't look like they'd have a chance with hardly no support. I saw rich kids, who had what looked like tons of support and everything in between. And I realized that there was way more similarities between them than there were differences.
But
So
what were your most challenging experience working in the correctional?
the most challenging experiences for me was not necessarily the inmates. I kind of grew to learn and understand my inmates. The most challenging part was working with that type of administration, that type of mindset toward how we should treat the inmates. And I'm not necessarily saying that the system looked to treat them badly, but they didn't share the same thoughts I eventually came to. It was much more of a cookie cutter, do this or do that, and we don't care whether they end up or doing this or doing that, as long as we check our boxes type of thing. At times, once I became enlightened to what I thought the problem was, I just only increased my struggles now with the administration side of it and how they were working. And there were times when we bumped heads, I'm not going to lie, but I stood strong, because I had came to that point in my life, and especially coming closer to retirement, where I stopped caring so much about what they thought. So that was a big struggle for me, just turning my nursing focus around, after that.
So what did you initiate in the correctional? I mean, you mentioned about you've learned their needs, their experiences, their problems. What type of programs did you initiate in the correctional to at least help solve the problem?
If I'm being honest, I wouldn't say that I initiated any programs in the correctional facility to help solve problems, because that was a closed system. Okay. It wasn't the type of thing where I was going to come in and do some things that were revolutionary and all that. When you're dealing with law enforcement and you're dealing with the correctional mindset, if you think you got ego, you can forget it. Okay. They got ego. Okay. They got ego, comes natural. So I call it law.
admin?
I call it law enforcement.
Law
That
enforcement.
total mindset.
Uh-huh.
And I had some good. I had a pretty good supervisor. For me, my supervisor, the head of the jail, was different than most of the jail wardens. He was actually a social worker by trade, which is unusual in that sphere. He came up the line and became the warden, but he was a social worker by trade. That ended up making a lot of difference in how I was able to work and deal with people. So I did have free reign to talk about what I wanted to do. I did have free reign to try to work with and influence my providers, my social workers that came in, my doctors, counselors and all that. I did have free reign to talk and speak with them as I felt and get their knowledge and give my, opinions on how we should move forward. So I won't say that I was able to develop any new programs, but I was able to have a lot of influence in how we talked to people, how we dealt with people. I handled a lot of the family dealings myself. So when grandma called, That was me, you know. When mom called about her son, that was me. I had to do that when they came to the facility and met, they would bring me down. I'd have to talk to them. So I learned a lot about the hopes, the fears of family members and how they react in real time to those situations, and easily to understand why they become myopic in that situation, why they can't really see what's going on. They're intimidated by the processes. They are a lot of times resigned to the pain. They get beat down very quickly because they've probably been smacked around and beat down before they even got to that situation. So they feel like it's a hopeless situation, whatever they can do to survive it. And they feel like, well, a lot of them feel like once this happened to my child, is he no good? It doesn't. I was happy to see that it didn't really take a lot to remind some of them that that's not necessarily the case. They sort of wanted to be reminded that their child's not worthless, but they were this needed somebody to tell them, hey, we can get out of this. We can get around this. We can their future with here. Let's do this. Let's do that. And, kind of get a little life in them, but like I say, initiating programs, no, but getting some direction, get some clarification and being able to give clarification direction. I was able to do that there. But shortly after I left there, then I was able to start doing some things on my own. So
now what are you doing after you have retired?
Well, I spent the first years after my retirement from then. So I got out of there at 2017. So it's been a while. I've been working at this for a while. But when I first came out, I went directly part-time into drug and alcohol abuse as a nurse. It was a natural because at the correctional facility, that's basically what I was doing. I mean, the correlation between drug and alcohol abuse and crime are they're greatly tied together. So many times we're dealing with drug and alcohol abuse and detox and things of that nature. So I was very used to that mentality, that lifestyle. So I had friends who were in a drug and alcohol facility at the time who, say, come over and let's do some part-time work. That's why I took the other half of what I knew. I had dealt with the inmates in that manner, but now I deal with a different crowd.
Yeah, older men, older people.
A similar mentality, but a little different. And as usual, my mindset, I drifted straight back to my mind. I'm drifting straight back to the younger people and their relationships with family and how they can be. I've always been like that. I'm looking to turn young lives around. So the older people and their addiction struggles, even though major part of what I did and was involved in, I still was focused on what I could do for the young people. And at that time, I really hadn't started second start yet, but I had a firm foundation of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to place it. So I took a couple more years of just learning and sealing that up, and that's why when I end up talking to some families that I talked to, I said, my mindset was born in a correctional facility, but it was forged and shaped in the substance use programming, and if I could say, back in my early nursing days, I was always a big fan of the Tony Robbins, Les Brown. I was very fascinated with motivational talk. And it didn't take me long to figure out that a lot of times the motivational talk was a little, let me be careful with my words because I don't mean it this way, but a little hooey. I knew that because of the people that they were trying to help. Most of the time in those situations, people that were tuning into that were people who had that, a lot of them were the people who had that business mindset and wanted to be entrepreneurs, and they needed to get the help with that breakthrough. And a lot of those guys really, to me, I saw it as, look at the technique, how they speak, how they affect people, I delved into their lives a little bit, quickly learning, and I knew this, quick learning, they were just real people, but they had technique and they had certain mindsets they were, well, I was always fascinated with that, And later on in this nursing career, as we bring back to the present, I had said to myself, wait a minute, that mindset stuff may be a lot of some huey for those entrepreneurs because they're either going to do it or not. I said, but if I could transfer this type of mindset to people who were not well and needed to change their lives, what would that mix look like? How could we combine that with some other techniques, and what would that look like? And I started to, test that, try it out, and, I had some success. So I've been, that's really what kind of brought me to where I'm at with the program now, is putting all those things together, that experience. I never was one of those nurses who got 13 degrees. I never was interested in that. I didn't want to be a nurse practitioner. Did you want to go on further? I didn't want to. I had to be talked into becoming an RN after I was an LPN. Somebody just talked me into that, said, why don't you do it? You're going to be doing the same job, you're going to make twice as much money. So that's the only way they talked me into it. I didn't have any desire to climb that ladder. I like dealing with the old people. So I had no desire. I was offered opportunity to become a nurse practitioner. We got a program. You want to do this? And I was like, my heart's not going to be in it. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. So you can just call me, Rich Jones, RN. I'll swing with that. That's good. I don't need to be, I don't need 20 other letters behind my name. I just didn't want it. I didn't want to deal with that. I wasn't crazy about the medical hierarchy and the medical mindset. I don't discount it. I make that clear to all the people that I work with. I do not discount the medical. As a matter of fact, I part of that community. I belong to that community. So I accept that. Now, I don't discount the work that any of them do. I thought that my work was more of an enhancement to that model. I thought that model needed a lot of enhancement, a lot of clarification, and, some outcome mindset type things we need to add in there instead of being straight clinical with people. So I kind of melded those things together, and that's where I sit.
I could see you focusing more on relationship rather than the techniques, the skills in taking care of the patients.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. And as we grow older, I've been observing that we're no longer into the the success of having titles,
Right.
A salary, money, positions. I think our focus now is more on how we can share that light for others, so others may also share that light.
Yes.
And create a ripple effect on other people.
Yeah.
And I think the more we get older, the more we discover our purpose in life. Living a more meaningful life on how we make a difference in this world.
Yes.
And that's how we relate with other people, how we help other people, spreading kindness, hope,
Yes.
and compassion.
Let me tell you a quick story. I repeat this anytime I get a chance. I gave it a name. Okay. And it's called the Sallyport story. And to me, it kind of embodies everything that I was thinking in one. Sallyport is always there's a little area in between the outside of your jail place where the inmates are kept. And it's a small room in between the lockup and the outside where, a table in there, old metal table. Picture that old metal table with the paint sort of worn off of, and the old chairs next to it. 2 old chairs, an old table, and a light up top, where the lawyers would meet with their clients coming right out of lockup. That's where they would meet.
Interview there.
Yeah, everybody would meet there, and that's where you talk. Well, that's where I did my medical interviews also. My attitude changed during those interviews because what I would do was I would sit down with a number of young people. Not any one in particular, a bunch of them. I had this a lot. I had a conversation with them. I started learning how to ask them certain questions. And I would probe. I got to the point where I would probe their insight. I was curious as to how much insight did this young person have? And I would probe that. And I was surprised that there was a lot more insight once you got below that couple of top layers. And I would see in those young people, I would be there a lot when they had that moment where, like, oh, wow, look what I just did, how I got here. And it would hit them, everything at once. And you could see fear in their eyes. You could see fear. It's like, air coming out of them, because they would relax when they'd be tough with the guards and everything. But when the medical come in, they sort of relax their guard down. And they would tell me, man, someone would come out and say, I'm scared. Someone, you could see it in their eyes, And when I matched that with the inside, I realized that they really didn't want to do this. But for many types of different reasons, they were in it. They were in that type of lifestyle. They had reputation to keep up or something of that nature, or they were ruled by their emotions for a particular time, all different types of things. But they didn't want to be there. And they had the ability to think and get out of it, but not without direction. Well, the kind of direction that we give them in the correctional facility is, you come in, you talk to a doctor, medical, you see a psychiatrist if you need one, if you think something's going on, if you have especially if you have a substance use issue, you talk to them, they talk to you, and they write down whether they think you're bipolar or borderline personality or nothing's wrong with you, but just a fool, whatever they would write down, they would put down, but it didn't grasp the person. Mm-hmm. And when I talked to the families, and I heard countless amount of times, mothers just dying, coming apart, just the pain, the fear, the embarrassment, those things were just, oh, and I heard some of those conversations. And there was a third wheel in this, Cynthia. My practitioners that talked to them. In talking to them, I realized that in working in the systems that they worked in, they wanted to do more too. But their training was so specific in what they were trying to work out. I'm going to help you with your bipolar. I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to do this. We'll get you housing. We'll get you this. We'll get you that. Concentrating on their abilities, working hard. I told everybody, I don't think it's not for working hard. I'm not one of those people that don't believe that the system is bad because everybody's bad and it's just terrible. As working inside the system, I never believed that. I see that. I've seen many very hardworking, dedicated practitioners, but the focus wasn't on where I thought it needed to be in order to actually change the situation. They were helpers, but our system fancies our helpers as the answer. And I realized that our helpers are not the answer. Our helpers were just tools that can be used. And our system was giving people an opportunity to get better. And that in itself was a problem because getting better, I tell the families, getting better is not a destination. We can't shoot for getting better. If we shoot for getting better, we're dead in the water. I'll tell you that right now. If we shoot for, just get out of this, stop doing those drugs. If we shoot for that, you're dead in the water. So I in talking to those practitioners and realizing that I could be of not a different alternative than them, but I wanted to multiply their efforts. I always had in my mind, the practitioners, are doing, 3. I wanted to make it 4. I wanted to add 1+ and give them that extra rung that they needed to really start making a difference. So in talking to the inmates in that Sally Port and then coming out and getting on the phone with mom or grandparents who didn't even know what was going on. They just was upset. They didn't have any idea, and nothing but blame. And our system also kind of created and manifested and watered blame and shame. We didn't do it on purpose.
Yes.
But in our attempting to help, we magnified blame and shame, and guilt. Guilt rides with it, I had practitioners who were good with working with people with guilt. But that's hard to do when you're not looking at the whole picture. You're just working with the guilt. So I always said, well, do you need that practitioner that helps with guilt? Yes, you do. If you are having any other mental health problems, do you need that practitioner to help you with that? Yes, you do. But we got to worry about putting it all together and getting to a destination. Because if you don't do that, you will stay right there in our recovery mindset. You'll stay in the recovery mindset if you don't look to find a place and get to that place. And that's what I had in mind. So it was to me, it was just sitting at that Sally Port.
Exactly.
I learned so much there.
And it's really about empathy, emotional intelligence. See what are they, what made they, what brought them to do this. Just seek deeper and more, be more relatable, because if you're there, do this. Me, I've learned my parents were very authoritarian. Okay, do this, the elders, the baby boomers. But now I'm adjusting also to my children. I am unable to do the same thing. I will show them that I am a parent that provides guidance, and they should also follow my rules. But in terms of relating with them, we should adapt to the generation as well. What I've observed, my children were distancing themselves from me. And where will they get their their support? Other friends. And that's how they are being influenced by friends. And they thought that's better than staying with the parents because the parents are putting them down, are not understanding them. They feel that they want to belong to a particular community, to a particular group.
Yeah.
As what you've mentioned in that room, get to know that person and take a more deeper role in terms of probing questions, asking where are they coming from, and probably that's the time you are able to discuss this also with the parents.
Right.
Me, I admit, when my children told me, "Oh, I don't show," it's like a slap on my face because I was raised that we were not appreciated also, because it's our responsibility to study, to give high grades. Not we're not expecting we're not expected to receive praises from the parents because that's your duty.
Yeah.
So now I'm learning as well.
Right.
Wow.
One thing I figured out too quickly right after that, especially after I got out retired, started to want to work in it, and I wanted to be honest. I tell the people, well, wait a minute. I'm a registered nurse. I'm not a licensed counselor. I'm not a therapist. Okay. I'm not a doctor. So I decided that maybe the best approach was to not try to be any of those. Try to be something different. And that's kind of where I came up with Second Starts. It's something different. I don't spend time trying to be the family's therapist. But what I am big on is because I told him, I said, I need you to do 3 things for me. I need to teach you 3 things. Once I do, I'm done. Okay. First of all, what I call comprehension. All those people that are looking to help you, all those assets that we have available, programs, that information, all that. One of the big things and reason why our success rate with helping these young people are so low is because we do it with a colander. We put it in there and it's got nothing but holes in the bottom. So what could I do to increase the absorption and the use of all those tools? Because I wasn't a believer. I'm not a believer in, well, one tool's so much better than the other one. I don't really believe that. But I do believe in whatever tools you're using, get the most out of them. Let's magnify and multiply what you're getting out of that program. So I told them, that's the first thing we're going to do. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to change this support network relationship. This guilt, it's my fault. We sit around the table. We talk about all Junior done wrong. We all hold our heads and swear to God we're going to do better again. I said, we got to approach this in a different manner. So let's switch this up. So we developed a new way for parents and family members to support, a different way to support, not that old way, a different way that didn't involve what we did wrong, what we're going, and we're going to stop doing this, and we're not going to be bad anymore, and all that. Forget all that. It's a forward-leaning mindset type of support that we're going to give. And then the last thing I tell the young people and the families, listen, everybody lies to you about one important thing. They want you to believe that our treatments, our methods, what we can tell you, the information that we can give you, we can help you, that's not true. We're just tools, all of us. You will have to do this on yourself. What I need to do is I got a suggested path, but you will have to do this on your own. You will not heal by information. You will not heal by some smart doctor or some great therapist. That's not going to do it. That's not the way it's going to go. So let's dig in now and let's build a new foundation to where you can support and power your own recovery, and not just to recover to get better, but let's decide on our destination. And that's what we're shooting for. Recovery, stop doing drugs, stop getting in trouble. That's all cute stuff on the way to where we're going. And that's what I try to impose on them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I just had a live video in terms of, does your past determine your future? And I shared 3 perspectives on how to influence that kind of mindset. First one is lessons learned. What have you learned from the past mistakes? Second, responsibility. Be responsible enough to take action. Don't go out blaming everything outside,
Yeah.
but work on yourself.
Mm.
And then the third one is create your vision.
Mhm.
What will be your vision so that as you go along throughout your journey, you are at the right path now, and that's the direction go towards your destination.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
the same. We think the same way, babe.
Yes. So, babe, what's your goal now for the next 12 months?
You know, the next 12 months is I want to keep on doing my show on the Empower Me Network. I might want to say the soapbox. I want to do better with that. I've had a vision to continue working with my families, but I want to do something else. And I've been starting with this, and I'm basically calling it, I haven't really dug into what I'm going to call it, but I believe in what I call transformational referrals.
Mhm.
In other words, I want to start reaching out to our standard medical community, the frontline providers, the one that get the calls, the one that insurance pays for, the one that see people whether they know or not just because they got a degree. And I want to start letting them know you have to, this is not a this or that society anymore. It's an and society. You need to start multiplying your efforts with what I call transformational referrals. You know, people like yourself. I think that what they need to start doing is go through their treatment regimens, but also look to see other providers that add that extra spark, taking them that can take them, have time to take them on that personal journey, have time to finish this off and polish it off the proper way and lead them to where to go. Our frontline practitioners do not have that mission.
Uh-huh.
They don't have that time, you know, and most of the time they don't have that insight because they're not attempting to have that insight. But they do serve very useful things. I want to try to get a network of physicians and frontline people that are relating to some transformational referrals, some things I do, some things that you do, some people that I've interviewed on the soapbox, other practitioners, you know. And I want to get a network to where these practitioners are starting to look and say, you know what, who can I pair them up with that multiply my results? I don't have to get, you know, hey, it's not about your money. You're getting paid insurance anyway. You're getting your money. But what can you do to multiply? Drop a little ego.
Mhm.
Okay. And I feel like, so everyone talks about how terrible the system is. Well, I would say this. If we would stop with the under 20% success rate and maybe take that to something crazy like 45%, how about crazy 50%? If we would just raise that, we would take a system that looks like it's failing and make it look like a success without changing anything that you're doing. Just start using some other assets. We're in the end time now. You know, we don't want to, we have to attack this thing, especially addiction, especially with young people. We have to attack it with overwhelming force. In other words, bring all assets to bear at once on top of the situation. Guy in the jail told me one time, they went down to get this new inmate. He was a wicked character. He'd been knocking people out and everything, arrested. They went down to pick him up to bring to medical. They sent 12 guys to go down there and get him.
Wow.
I said to them, I'm not sure y'all need 12 people to go get this guy. What do you need 12 people for? And they told me, and the captain told me, he said, Rich, when we present overwhelming force, we eliminate resistance. Now, once we eliminate resistance, there's no fighting. The guy sees this. He says, I'm going peacefully. I can't win this battle. Now we get a guy to you. No fighting, no scraping. He has no idea that maybe he could get out of this or nothing. He goes peacefully. Nobody gets hurt. We have no paperwork. You get a guy who is calm because he kind of gives up. So the overwhelming force is not to beat a situation down. It's to give a situation a time to resign itself to the mission that it has to get on. So they didn't take 12 guys down there to beat him up. They took 12 guys down there to let him know, hey, this is a done deal. You can be calm now. You don't have to worry about fighting nobody because there's no victory to be had. There's nothing for you to do but go peacefully. And that's why we use overwhelming force. And I kind of took that mission in my mind. We need to attack this situation, which is a deadly situation. You know, young kids now die from doing drugs, not from using them. Used to be able to use them a long time and it does destroy your life. Now you could take one sniff or one snort or one smoke of something and you can hit the floor dead now.
Oh,
We don't have the time to dilly-dally around with the niceties and the political correctnesses of saving people's lives. We have to get on it, and we have to do it with overwhelming force, whatever assets they're brought to bear. So I want to create a transformational network where I can get frontline providers to say, hey, I got this person here. I'm treating him for this and I'm treating for that. But he's also a father. So I've had people come on my show that work with the young fathers with kids. Maybe if I hooked him up with him, that would make his life easier. Or maybe, I hook this person up with somebody else who does something that's similar and it could make their recovery easier. And we can team up and double up on this thing or trip, whatever we have to do. So I want to
wonderful.
create a transformational network. And that's my goal for this year, to get
Wonderful.
frontline practitioners to come along with me and open up their eyes a little bit and not be so, our way is the only way. No, it's not.
No.
You got to know that. When you got to start trusting some other people to get in there and help you out.
Oh, I agree with you. There are other ways and means to,
Yes.
instead of force.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
What do you think would be the major roadblock in achieving this goal?
The ego of the practitioners that I'm working with and the ego of the system. It just not a natural ego to the system. It's not just the people, it's in our entire system. And it has to be. I don't begrudge the system for its ego, because I understand in order to create a large system that helps many people, you have to cookie cutter it and you have to standardize it. That's the only way it's going to work. We're human beings still, no matter what. And organizations and mindsets only come together in particular ways. So I don't begrudge them of their ego, but I want to try to talk them out of it. And I understand why you think this way, but let's look and let's make a shift.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a huge shift. I'm not even asking you to do anything different than you've ever done, but open up your mindset to who else can help you. That's what I'm trying to get them to do.
Exactly. Sometimes we usually use our binoculars because that's what we are focused on, what we want, not realizing that there are other people out there
Right.
who will help you see things in a different perspective.
Yes.
So you'll be able to appreciate life more.
Right. And the more support someone in an addiction has, the more I wake up back to the overwhelming force story. It's like, I've got this many people and this many things supporting me. Maybe I'm not too bad. Maybe I can.
I am loved.
This is crazy. I got these people telling me this is going to be good.
Yes.
Maybe I should get on board.
If they feel that they are loved, then they're more than willing to go through the healing that they need. So before we end, what simple advice would you like to give to our listeners?
The simple advice I'd like to give our listeners: if you're a parent or a mentor of someone that's in this situation, remember that you don't have to. This is not something that you have to be resigned to. That's sort of a fallacy that's been put upon us. You do not have to experience this pain. Can anyone ever take away the pain that you've already had? No. But you don't have to continue on it. You don't have to resign yourself to it. You don't have to, and there's things that you can do to make it incrementally better and things that you can do to make it go over the top. And you just got to open up your eyes to that and not give up, because the things, the people, the places, and the things work overtime to bring you down. They are professionally funded. They're institutionalized. They are organized. And they are ready to beat you down. And if you don't have the superior mindset to combat that, you're going down. They're better than you at this. The things that the commercialization of our kids, the spiritual taking over, all of that stuff together, whichever way you want to look at it. I have some people that are more religious. This is a spiritual thing. I'm good with that. I see people more economical. So your consumerism, that's also true. They're all gravity against you. But the one thing that they cannot fight, when you make a decision.
Yes.
To go the other way. They don't have the power to do that. They try to keep you from making that decision. But once you make that decision to change, they don't have the power over you anymore. And that's what I like to tell them. You can do this.
Amazing. And that's what I also share to my clients. You have that power to create your dream by design. You have that power to create the life you want to live. Do not be constricted by the circumstances, conditions surrounding you, because you are holding your life and you are empowered to really make that decision so you could enjoy and live a more meaningful life. Okay, thank you so much. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Pretty easy. Go to either secondstarts.com, and that's the number 2ndstarts.com. There's something on there you'll see. That's basically it's a quick landing page, and it has something for practitioners, something for families. Click on the family one, or whichever one you are. I have also parentingyourchildinrecovery.com, where the families can go directly. I talk a little bit about what the mission is, but my thing is this, and I tell everybody, let me hear your story. Talk to me about what's going on, and if I could help, I will. I know I've been around this stuff for a long time. I've seen some things, and I've heard some things. We just like to help. We can create if we work with somebody, the program has a skeleton, but inside the skeleton is extremely customizable. In other words, I don't work with people in an exact cookie cutter way. I have a skeleton that we work with, but it all comes from your experience, and what you're doing. So find me at those two places. And of course, Richard Jones at secondstarts.com for an email if you just want to drop me a line.
Thank you so much, Richard, for this time. And I look forward to meeting you again in the future.
I think you will, because I'm going to try to get you to come on the soapbox, so you maybe will meet me some future.
Okay, sure, that would be nice.
Okay.
A lot of people are just waiting for our stories to be heard. So if our stories could make an impact to other people's life, why not? Okay. And then again, to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and till our next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Such an incredible story of resilience and transformation. The journey is a powerful reminder that adversity can lead to profound personal growth and the ability to uplift others. It's inspiring to see how each one turned their challenges into opportunities for healing, especially for those who may feel lost or hopeless. I want to take this opportunity to invite you to explore my books, My Journey into Becoming and Dream to Rise from Darkness into Light. In my journey into becoming, I shared my personal struggles in overcoming an abusive relationship and the heart-wrenching moments that followed, ultimately finding my purpose in helping others live their dreams. Dream to Rise, an anthology, combines the stories of 18 courageous co-authors who illuminate the path from darkness to light, each narrative showcasing the profound impact that sharing our truths can have on those who are struggling. Together, we can inspire change and encourage others to embrace their own journeys. Remember, your voice matters, and there is a community of support waiting to lift you up. Let's continue to be beacons of hope and make a difference in this world. Thank you for being here and for everything you're doing to help others rise. For those who would like to be a part of the Dream to Rise Inner Circle, this is a mastermind group that fosters learning and growth. My main objective is to help the members rise and shine. Be a part of this amazing group, and let's thrive to be the best version of ourselves. If you need more information, please visit my website, www.dreamtorise.info. Again, www.dreamtorise.info. Have a blessed day to all.